Hi there, and in today's video, we're going to delve into the answer to the question, how to help students achieve academic success. Now, of course, academic success is not the guarantee of success in life, but it certainly opens up lots of more opportunities and a lot more doors for students. So we're going to kind of look at that in this video. This first part of this video, we're going to talk about the power of beliefs, how important beliefs are. And of course, beliefs are essential to the mindset. So that's kind of where we'll be going with that. Second part, we're going to be looking at strategies. That's thinking strategies as well as strategies around managing your emotions, which play such a crucial role. Third, we're going to be looking at the social aspect and how important social development factors into all this. Fourth, confidence, right? How do you build it? How that will impact young people. And five, we're going to talk about the all-important habits to develop. And then we'll look at how it plays out in the real world. The beliefs a person holds is enormously impact on their ability level. And if a student doesn't believe they are capable of something, they will not ever be able to fulfill their promise in that particular area. I'll give you an example of a student I had who had developed a belief, especially around math, but around learning in general, that he just wasn't very smart. He just couldn't learn these things, and math was the worst. And he tested on standardized tests in the bottom 10th percentile, meaning that 90% of his peer group would do better than him in math. By the time he came to us, he was about 3 years behind his peers in math. And again, that impacted other academic areas as well. We had to break down that belief because that belief kept getting in the way. Oh, I can't do this. I just can't figure it out. I can never learn this. That made that a self-fulfilling prophecy. Once we finally get those beliefs broken, and we built some habits, which I'll also talk about with him. In 1 year, he went from 10th percentile to 50th percentile, solidly average, and increased his grade level 3 grade levels in 1 year in math. And the biggest things was first the belief and then the habits. The other thing we need to help students do is develop good strategies for thinking, right, for studying. Some of that is decision-making strategies, questioning, how to think in a way so they can ask better questions. But probably most importantly is strategies to manage their emotions, because negative emotions in particular can really get in the way of your ability to think clearly and to think well, for lack of a better word. But if you're holding on to emotions like frustration or anger or guilt or hurt or fear is a big one. When you're holding on to those, you are not thinking efficiently or clearly. That emotion is getting in the way. So we got to help students understand what emotions they're holding on to related to their learning and to their academic growth and development. So things like fear and anxiety, we've got to break those down. We've got to help them release those. We've got to help them learn what is meant, what's the purpose of the emotion, right? What's the lesson it's trying to teach us, so we can hold on to that lesson and then go through some techniques and use some strategies for letting go of those emotions. And that has a profound impact on a student's success and ability to achieve their full potential, academically speaking. So social connection is enormously important in academic success and helping kids learn to work with each other, to develop that connection with peers can be profound in their ability to find success academically. And it goes beyond just that synergy that comes together when people are working together and posing ideas in different questions and getting maybe people thinking in a slightly different way. All of that can be incredibly valuable. But the social interaction, the development of those relationships, and the positive outlook on those is really important. Inevitably, if you see a kid who isn't making those social connections, you will see their academics suffer. This also goes along with connections with the teachers, with the adults, right? So if a child isn't necessarily connecting well with their peers, but they've made a connection with a teacher, it can help to kind of counteract that negative experience they're having with their peer group. And when you connect with a kid, it's so much easier to be tough when you need to be tough, right? That tough love, to push and to prod and to cajole and to do all these different things that you need to do to help get a student over the hump or interrupt negative patterns or push them to new levels. And when you have a good relationship with them, it opens up so many more possibilities, tools, and things that you can use to try to get them to fulfill their promise and the expectations that they really kind of often have deep inside themselves. Self-confidence is it's a very interesting subject because confidence definitely comes from success, right? So when you're successful at something, you feel more confident in being able to do that. So first and foremost, we want to get kids in success loops. So you find ways that you can get them experiencing success early and often, and you gradually raise that bar, making things a little bit tougher and tougher as you go along. That is enormous in helping to build confidence. But the confidence also comes from how the beliefs that they have, beliefs about themselves, their abilities, and you can subtly or directly try to help children change those beliefs that put caps on them. So subtly, it's learning how to ask different questions of them that forces them to interrupt their thinking pattern and then embed some new suggestions around, geez, maybe if you thought that you could do this, that might have more positive benefit. I don't know, I'm just saying something like that after you have interrupted the pattern by going, how do you do that? And they might look at like, do what? How do you get so upset at yourself? When you ask a process-oriented question, they have to go internal. You interrupt a pattern by the very nature of the question where they don't know the answer right off. They might try to answer it right off real quickly, but I don't know, I just do. But unconsciously, they've begun to go, how do I do that? And you've interrupted that thinking pattern, and it makes any suggestion you have after that more likely to hit home. So some of the habits that we want students to have are habits around managing their time, right? Developing that ability to plan out when they're going to do things. The habit of being able to get into a learning state, a learning mode, where they can get themselves organized, decluttered, and ready to sit down and do whatever that work is. Habits around positive thinking. Habits around anchoring positive emotions, joy, happiness, curiosity. You want these habits going on regularly in their life so that they can access the positive nature that's necessary to be good students, right? So there are certain rituals that highly suggest people to do in the morning, in the evening, but also for students like before big tests or those moments where they may struggle because of anxiety. Test taking is a big one, whether it's standardized test or, geez, I've got this big test coming up in this class, and they get all nervous and anxious, and that prevents them from doing well. Habits around managing those, from exercise to visualization to anchoring techniques, all of those things are something that we need to teach them and help them develop. So let me tell you about two students I talk about a lot because they are perfect models for the kind of success that you can have when you help students build the habits, break down limiting beliefs, social emotional connections. And one of my students had come from a long history of lack of family success in school. All right? There's a large number of brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles who had gone through the school system and never completed high school. And they're just highly dysfunctional in many regards. This student had didn't fit in socially, right? So this is a wealthy community that I was working in, and not a wealthy family by any stretch of the imagination. So there's a lot of work to do there. But doing these things we talked about, helping break those beliefs down, give new beliefs and better habits, all of that, despite this young woman moving 3 times in 3 years in high school, she graduated high school a year early. And this is from a long line of people in her family who she was very close to, who never graduated high school. The other student was a student who had extremely anxious, couldn't attend physically, emotionally. Attendance was not good, grades suffered. All the same thing, right? We had to break down those beliefs, open up new, as her mom said, open up new pathways to learning in volumes. Well, by the time this student became a junior in high school and was applying to colleges, she was able to get into a college that had a 17% acceptance rate, a very highly thought of, high academic standard college. I invite you to subscribe to our channel, check out our other videos, check out my podcast, but I really would also invite you to register for our free webinar, Emotional Hygiene. And in that webinar, I think you'll kind of get a sense for some of the emotional aspects that will come into play and what we can do about those. So check that webinar out today.